Pregnancy and birth are some of the scariest experiences any woman or person can ever go through, but they can also come with a lot of joy and hope. But for a lot of women and people in Africa and South Africa, it can be a very traumatic experience, and the trauma is in most cases inflicted by the same institutions that are supposed to protect, support, and help women go through their pregnancies and birth. In this 4-part series, we will look at that trauma called obstetric violence, how it manifests, what is it, how does it affect us, and how do we fight it and deal with it. This is episode 1.
So the nurses during the day were not so kind. They were very impatient. They were shouting at me and the other ladies I was with in that ward, and the shaming continued there. If I remember well, I was the youngest in that ward, and everyone kept on reminding me of this, or sometimes it would be done in the presence of like visitors for the other ladies I was with, and that was not a very nice experience. I was scared, I was young, but I felt so alone during that moment.
I speak the way I do, and I was giving birth at a public hospital, and a lot of times I wasn't helped because why am I at a public institution? Why am I not in a private institution? Since I speak the way I do, I was even asked if I was a South African at times. They're telling me about why am I moaning? Why am I crying? Why am I whatever? They didn't make me pregnant. They shouldn't have to suffer. They basically did the whole, oh my God, and you're the last person to give birth from the batch of the people we induced. This is just a lot. So they basically just felt like I'm not giving birth on time, and then they just left me vibe. I started falling asleep while I was giving birth because I was so exhausted. And then the lady was basically poking my lady parts and thighs with what it felt like a needle. I think it was an injection needle, I don't know. But there was a lot of poking, and that's how I stayed up. And when the lady came to stitch me up, she kept commenting about how much I'm bleeding, and then she called a supervisor, which then, while all of this is happening, my BP is going down, my blood pressure, all these things are plateauing. One moment I was aware and cognizant, and then the next moment I was getting dizzy. I felt like I'm getting loopy, and they keep telling me, please don't fall asleep yet. At that point they were telling me if I don't get the operation that they're recommending, I would die in like literally the same day. Then they told me they were not going to ask consent from me because it's an emergency operation, I guess, to scare me, because they still then asked me to sign consent. It's actually a painful memory.
Embrace the Movement for Mothers defines obstetric violence as the violations and abuses experienced by pregnant women and birthing people while accessing healthcare during pregnancy, labor, childbirth, and in the postpartum period. This form of gender-based violence presents a significant threat to the global health of women and children, says Embrace. In the next episode, we will look at how this form of gender-based violence impacts on women and their children.